We've got a new live letter notes. If you're interested in checking this out for yourself and you're watching on YouTube, you can find the link in the description down below. So the live letter from the producer, this is when they give updates about what's coming in the game's future, all that fun stuff. A lot of information about Endwalker, a lot of stuff that we already know, some stuff that we don't already know, including some more details, like a little bit of information about how they're going to approach the numbers downscaling, which is something that I'm incredibly interested in. It's not going to be an easy task, but we have faith in the developers over here, so we're just going to be optimistic. So there's a VOD of the live letter discussion they had, as well as a video of the benchmark trailer, which I believe has already been out for a little bit. So I'm not going to. You can check all that out on your own if you want to see. I'm pretty sure this has been out for a good while now. It's like a 6.5-minute video, and it's available in 4K 60 FPS. So the first thing here, they talk about Paladin's Resistance Weapon. There's a legacy mark on the back of the shield, which are supposed to be company crests. Eventually they're going to patch that out. We'll be changing how legacy mark data is handled in order to prevent a similar situation from happening again. So that's interesting. I guess that was probably some leftover code stuff, but obviously an unintended thing. So obviously we know that new main scenario is coming. Conclusion of Hyperion and Zodiac. More story content than ever before. More voiced lines. That's great, because I've always been saying, like, I just wish that they would use their voice actors more, because the voice actors do so good and make the story so compelling, and there's just so much exposition of just text walls that you have to read through if you want to stay engaged with the story, and a lot of it's just reiterating the same thing. So I'm very happy. 30% more compared to Shadowbringers. That sounds immense. And more cutscenes as well. I'm very excited about that. And it says Shadowbringers was quite voluminous, and I agree with that. So I'm really excited to see them putting those voice actors to good use. Makes me very happy that, you know, it feels really good when you're hoping that the game goes in a certain direction, and then you see patch notes and that's what they're doing. So I'm really excited about that. New cities, all of the concept art and everything that I've seen of the new cities looks beautiful. I know that one of these is Charlian and one of them is Rads at Hand. I don't remember which is which, but the names of these is available, you know, in places. There's also a thunderstorm, so I hope that that doesn't make a ton of noise. We've got massive new areas. I'm hoping that they're pushing them to be even bigger than in Shadowbringers. You know, now that we're moving on to a PS5 client for PlayStation players, I mean, I imagine there are still some limitations with the PlayStation 4, but we seem to be getting bigger and bigger, which is really good for a game where all the zones are instanced. It really gives it that more immersive world feel, whereas when I'm playing in a Realm Reborn, especially now with flying, everything just feels so small. It feels like I'm in these tiny little zones. So this all looks great. This moon picture on the left here is actually my desktop background on my desktop right now. New jobs, Sage and Reaper, of course. Everybody's excited about this. I can't wait to try Reaper. I've been saving up my maiming items for Glamours. I'm definitely going to give it a try. I don't know if I'm going to switch from Samurai to Reaper in my main statics, but it's definitely something I'm thinking about. Reaper looks really cool. I love the aesthetic. I love the whole Necromancer thing. Still a little disappointed that we didn't get a hammer DPS, but Reaper is pretty cool, so I'm excited. And of course, we do need another maiming job. Now I think it's just scouting that doesn't share with anybody, but maybe I'm forgetting about something. So 2 new jobs, Sage. Sage is going to be a shield healer. Of course, Astrologian will no longer be dual stance. It will be exclusively a regen healer with White Mage, while Scholar and Sage will be taking up the shield side of things. So if you're a Scholar main, expect to have a really hard time finding a group, at least at the start of the expansion, unless Sage is really bad, which I doubt it will be, because ever since the whole Red Mage thing, Red Mage and Samurai both being a little underwhelming on release, I feel like they've erred on the side of new jobs being too strong. New dungeons, of course. Everybody knows this is coming. I'm always excited to see the new dungeons. I really like the look of this industrial one down here on the bottom right with the train and everything. This one looks really immense, even though I'm sure most of it is just like background effects. And this one's got like a whole bunch of different kinds of weathers going on. There's some fire over here, there's like a desert area, there's a frozen tundra, so probably some elemental stuff. There are these columns here with both fire and ice. And then we've got this really exotic looking one. This reminds me of Rads at Hand, but it could be related to another area as well. A high-end raid, Pandemonium, and we see just looking at the logo here that we've got both the Ascian mask symbol, and I might be getting this completely wrong, as well as an Ascian in the background here wearing a hood and the mask, all that. Don't expect me to get the symbolism right. because I have a terrible memory. A series of raids that will be released during 6.x, following the release of 6.0. Savage will be implemented 2 weeks after the normal raids. They say the illustration we use here carries a deeper meaning, which you'll gradually understand as the story progresses. Some of you may have guessed we're aiming to release the raids within a year. If you're hoping to challenge them on release, you may want to set aside some time during the holidays. I'll be challenging them before the holidays, in my opinion. So that's really exciting. Of course, I love Savage. Nothing about the new Ultimate or how many there will be yet, but maybe there will be something about that further down below. Alliance Raid series, Myths of the Realm. So this is going to be tied into the 12 gods. You know how when you're creating a character, you choose a birthday, and your god might be Viragot, or it might be Menfina, etc. So it's exciting to see them bring those 12 gods to some combat content. Of course, that's the 24-player Alliance raids that will start coming out 6.1, 6.3, 6.5. New beast tribes. So we've got the big elephant boys and the little bunny boys. These look cute and these look interesting. I haven't really played a lot of World of Warcraft, but I'm immediately reminded of the Draenei for some reason. Maybe it's because they've got dicks hanging off of their face. I don't know. New threats, Mage's Sisters and Anima. So I wonder if these are going to be trials. I guess that would make sense. I love Anima, specifically the Anima from Final Fantasy X, which this one looks a lot like. I just love the entire aesthetic and concept of Anima, this tormented being. And then the Mage's Sisters are pretty cool too, also notable from Final Fantasy X in addition to other Final Fantasy games, and their design here looks really cool. They've got these crazy, awesome, intricate masks, these really colorful, you know, once again invoking the color palette of Radzat, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's see, these aren't the same Mage's Sisters from 4, but rather characters of the same name that happen to exist in 14. As for Anima, there isn't much we can share at the moment without spoilers, but we've enjoyed reading through many different theories from players. Of course, there will be new gear and crafting recipes. So additional updates. New small-scale PvP mode, which is exciting. You know, PvP has always kind of struggled to find its footing in 14, but it is reassuring that even though it's kind of the stagnant part of the game, they're always trying to inject some new life into it. Maybe one day they'll hit the sweet spot and it'll pop off a little bit, especially with the influx of new players we have that are coming from games that PvP is a much more core feature of them. So we're getting Ishgard housing, which is exciting, but based on my experience with housing in the past, I mean, the lottery thing's going to be interesting, we'll talk about that later, but my experience in the past has been that by the time I can get logged in, even if I stay up all night, then by the time I actually get into the game, all the mediums and larges are sold, so it's not particularly thrilling to me. Updates to Gold Saucer. These are long overdue. We haven't gotten new Gold Saucer rewards in quite a long time. I'm sure there are a lot of players like myself who are sitting on millions of MGP who have stopped doing the fashion report for the most part and everything just because what are you going to do with that MGP? So maybe this will motivate me to capitalize on the Make It Rain event that's going on right now a little bit more, which, by the way, if you weren't aware, right now doing stuff in the Gold Saucer, I believe it yields double MGP. For the Make It Rain event, there's also a new emote you can get from a quest that you'll find near the Aetheryte in Ul'dah. Island Sanctuary, a lot of people have been calling this like Animal Crossing in Final Fantasy XIV and stuff. I know it's related to like minions and that you've got your own little island that you're doing stuff on. I don't know too much about Island Sanctuary, but I am excited to see what the developers have done with that. You know, the minion collections, the bad thing about them is that like your title collection, you can only use one at a time, so it'll be nice to see them implemented in something else. I have a pretty vast minion collection, and I'm hoping I can do something besides like throw a minion in them when Endwalker comes. The new data center, Oceania, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I might be mistaken, but I remember hearing recently that they said that they expected Oceania to be live in 7.0, which will be the expansion after Endwalker, which means probably another 2.5 years before that happens. And it's due to a variety of reasons, such as like the part shortage with COVID and everything that they talked about in their recent letter about the increase in player volume. And data center travel system. This is another thing they said that they expected this to be available before Endwalker. And I've been wondering if the influx of new players has resulted in this getting kicked back a little bit. We'll find out soon enough. Let's see, a new small-scale PvP mode is in production and will be showcased at a later time along with an overview of its new rules and reward system. So that's excited. Of course, the lottery system will be implemented for purchasing housing plots. Relocation rules will be adjusted, so a lot of things are going to be changing with housing. There will be designated areas for purchasing plots via lottery, first come, first serve, currently in preparation for the release of the housing area in Ishgard. And I suspect this won't be right on patch day, or when the expansion comes out either. It'll probably be one of the small patches after that, if I had to guess. Players will only be permitted to enter with the lottery if they meet the requirements to enter. They're implementing features to prevent RMT, and they're making players deposit gil up front to participate in the lottery, and no free trial accounts. And there's a gil penalty if you do not purchase after winning the lottery. Certain areas will be reserved for purchase as personal or free company housing, so I guess that just means there will also be areas that don't use the lottery system. And more details to come later, of course. Data center travel, we'd first like to get a feel for the feature for its initial release, so at first you won't be able to travel to data centers in other regions. That's lame. Because the person that I really want this feature for plays on EU. But it's okay, I have my EU alt, it's fine. For the initial release, players will be able to travel between data centers of the same region. So this means that Primal players will be able to go to Ether, I think is the other NA data server. Light players will be able to go over to Chaos, so on and so forth. Downscaled values and battle calculations. This is probably the scariest change. I mean, it's a welcome change, but it's also the scariest change coming in Endwalker, in my opinion. Because this is the kind of thing where if they get it a little bit too wrong, it can be really, really bad for the game. Because this involves rebalancing everything, all the gear, all the materia, all the enemies, all the jobs. It's a really complicated undertaking, and I understand why they're doing it. It's a good thing. It makes the numbers smaller, it makes it easier for the game to process things, it reduces variance in things like crit. Overall, it's a really good change, but it is something that needs to be done delicately and precisely. So reasons for downscaling: calculations causing overflow resulting in bugs, calculations for enmity reaching their limits, that's interesting, flying text becoming lengthy, and enemy HP is becoming monstrously high. The highest HP pool for bosses in 5.5 was 440 million. And they use this little tidbit of information here in a previous patch notes where they first announced the downscaling. Types of adjustments: the increase in gear stats between level 50 and 80 will be more limited. Okay, so we won't see as dramatic of a stat increase from levels 50 to 80, and then I don't know if that means it'll become more dramatic from 80 to 90, we'll have to see. If it does, then that means that they'll probably keep going until we get up to roughly where we're at now, and then crunch it again, depending on how they approach it in the future, but that's obviously way down the line. Overall HP, attributes, and damage values will be reduced, enemy HP and damage dealt will also be reduced, and experience points will be reduced. So basically they're shrinking all the numbers down. Things should still roughly be balanced the same if this is executed well. But there's just opportunities to mess this up tremendously left and right. So I'm going to have my faith in the developers and hope that they are treating this with the seriousness and the delicateness that it demands. The values used in battle calculations have become too large. As this increases the likelihood of errors, the values will be downscaled to reduce place values. So this is pretty interesting right here, or maybe this isn't the one I was thinking of. So the Warriors of Light are getting weaker. The same adjustments apply to players, allies, and enemies too, so you won't find battles. Okay, so we're just downscaling, which is what they're reiterating here, and that's not what I thought it was going to be. Both players and enemies will be affected by the same adjustments during downscaling. For example, if you were to face an enemy designed for item level 500 while wearing item level 500 gear, both sides will be downscaled equally, so there wouldn't be any changes in balance. So they're just, re-emphasizing the same point that it should still feel relatively the same in terms of gear progression, because both you and the enemies are downscaled the same amount. Will this affect undersized parties? The changes to gear stats will have an effect, so we will add a small buff to compensate. When I read this earlier, I thought this was kind of strange. I guess this is just to err on the side of caution and make undersized a little bit easier, just in case there are any weird effects or weird consequences from the downscaling that makes like doing a dungeon solo undersized harder or something. So maybe just more echo for undersized or something. As mentioned in the previous example, gear stats won't scale as high as they do now and may result in situations where undersized parties struggle more than before. To counteract this, we're working on a buff exclusive to undersized parties, which will be like a stronger version of the echo that adjusts the buff according to a player's level when they enter the duty. Wow, so they're just... That's interesting. We'll have to see how it works, but sounds like it's going to be a beefy buff and make a... I don't know. I don't know what to expect, but it's interesting. Rest assured, adjustments will be made to ensure that players can still take on content with undersized parties. So we won't get big hits anymore, like Fire 4 for 50k, or despair for 100k. If the baseline for big damage was 100k before, now it will be 20k. Strong attacks will still be strong. So I interpret this is probably really rough and loose, but this means to me that we're gonna be going to about 20% of where we're at right now. So my 50k Madares are gonna be 30k Madares. Sorry, my 150, I don't know if I said that right or not. My 150k Madares are gonna be 30k Madares. That doesn't really bother me too much. And like I said, there are a lot of good reasons to downscale. But 20% seems to be about where we're going to relative to now. So that's like, what, 84 million HP on the highest HP mob instead of 440, if I did my math right. I probably didn't. It's possible that we may return to dealing 100,000 damage in a single attack someday, but for now, damage values will be downscaled overall. This is a decision we made with the mindset of continuing service for many years to come, so we ask for your understanding regarding this. I think no one's really going to care at all as long as they get it right. You know, 20k is still a huge crit when the rest of your attacks are doing 5k, for example, so. Belt removal. This is really interesting. I really like the decisions they've made here. What's the plan? Belts will no longer be equipable starting with 6.0. Belts will no longer be obtainable via duties and item exchanges, and crafting recipes for belts will be removed. What's the plan? Belts in your inventory will remain there. The following will be given to the Calamity Salvager. Currently equipped belts, belts stored in your armory chest, belts equipped by a retainer, and materia affixed to belt will remain intact when retrieved from the Calamity Salvager. So all your belts are just going to disappear when the expansion comes out, and there's going to be an NPC in the major cities, Limsa, Ul'dah, and Gridania, who I guess you can reobtain them from in order to break them down or get the materia off of them or trade them in for GC seals or whatever you want. What's the plan? Belts can be sold to vendors, desynthesized, affixed materia can be removed, and materia extraction will no longer work, which means if you want that materia, if you have a 100% spirit bonded belt, you better get it before the expansion drops. What's the plan? The 35 slots for belts in the armory chest will be reallocated, adding 15 slots to main hand weapons and 15 slots to rings, totaling 50 for each. Now you see, I like this change, except I did notice that they're stealing 5 slots from us. But I guess they'll probably use those for something else later, or maybe to expand the job crystal cache. So we will have more weapon and ring slots, which anyone who plays all jobs knows that that's a desperately needed addition. There isn't anything players need to do to prepare for the removal of belts, but do note that after the change you won't be able to extract materia from belts that have reached 100% spirit bond. On the other hand, materia that have been melded to your belts can still be retrieved even after 6.0. Now I've got the future update schedule. This is about where I stopped looking earlier. So Make It Rain campaign, that's ongoing now. Patch 5.58, that came out almost a week ago. Moonfire Fair is coming on August 13th. And the Moonfire Fair is kind of like the summer festival. There's usually some really cool glamours and emotes that come with that. Usually it's a new dance or something like that. And then of course lots of fireworks and all that stuff. The Rising, which is the celebration of, I believe I don't remember if it celebrates the anniversary of when 1.0 came out or when 1.0 ended. I think it's when 1.0 ended, or it might even be when A Realm Reborn launched. But either way, it's like kind of like a in-game holiday in a way, unique to Final Fantasy XIV. And like the Moonfire Fair, it's an event with unique rewards, fireworks, and all that. The Final Fantasy XV collaboration event, so if you missed out on the, I forget what the car is called, but the 4-seater mount that you got from the event, you'll have an opportunity to get that in September on the 13th. There will also be a media tour in the middle of September, and then there will be another Moogle Treasure Trove on October the 19th. Moogle Treasure Trove is basically where they just add bonus rewards to old duties. I believe this time there's going to be a special jacket as a result of the recent Blue Mage event they did, where if one group could get all of the Blue Mage spells, then they would add the jacket into the game. So there will be a pretty cool reward from this. It's like a leather jacket with flames on the back. So that's exciting. At least it's not just like a ring or a necklace like the Moogle Treasure Troves usually are, which always tends to disappoint me. Okay, so November 19th, early access begins. November 23rd is when the game officially launches, the expansion early launches. By the way, if you want to be there for early access, you can pre-order Endwalker now on the Square Enix store. And when you attach that to your service account, you will automatically be enrolled to start playing Endwalker during the early access period. It's not essential, but I highly recommend, especially because I believe pre-ordering gets you the experience boost earring regardless, which gives you a 30% experience boost up to level 80. So especially if you're going for Sage or Reaper, then that experience is going to help you get through those levels really fast when early access begins. 11:30, November 30th will be All Saints Wake. That's the Halloween event. Halloween themed event, it seems. I don't know, do they always do it at the end of November? I don't even remember. And then December 15th, the Starlight event, which is like a Christmas kind of themed event. And then January 1st, Heaven's Turn, which is the New Year's event. So a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon, which is nice because we've been in a bit of a lull content-wise. Here's some more information about the 15 collaboration event. Planned for Monday, September 13th, this seasonal event replay feature will be available during the event. So yeah, this is just a repeat, so if you've already got the rewards from it before, then there won't be anything particularly interesting. But the fight that came out with this event was kind of fun, so look forward to it, especially if you have alts and you want to get the car on them so that you have a 4-seater mount. Quest completion for seasonal event quests will be reset, allowing them to be replayed. Access to shops and certain items available after quest completion will also be reset. Because quest completion will be reset, seasonal event quests must be completed before the event ends. Okay, I'm not entirely sure the meaning of this. It's kind of confusing, but it says that there will be further details at a later date. We went over a tentative schedule of events leading up to Endwalker's release. With 558, certain restrictions will be lifted and Season 20 of Feast will commence. The 15th collaboration will return to the game. Battle-related news and other details will be revealed in the media tour, which we mentioned will be mid-September. Of course, COVID-19 still causing problems with everything. They're holding the media tour in remote format, but we will be appealing to global media, so please look forward to it. Okay, so this is just reiterating everything we just went over. And then special talk session. In the latter half of the broadcast, we were joined by guest creators Yosuke Saito, producer of the NieR series, and Yoko Taro, president and CEO of Bokuro, director of the NieR series, to reflect back on Yorha Dark Apocalypse, as well as answer questions gathered on the official forums beforehand. I'm not going to go through all of this Q&A. Like I said, the link is in the description if you want to check that out if you're watching this on YouTube. I'll also drop that link in Twitch chat right now, just in case anyone is curious in this. And then we've got upcoming installments of Live Letter from the Producer. So the next one will be in the middle of September, so a little less than 2 months from now, and then following that, early November. So this is when we'll be getting our next juicy updates about Shadowbringers. Alright, and that's going to wrap up this review of the most recent Live Letter from the Producer.